Hey guys, it's Maggie here. All right, so I had this question pop up yet again. It's a really common topic, especially and I've only ever covered this with clients and courses before, but it is such a common question that I wanted to do it here live for all of you guys on the Facebooks that aren't necessarily either in the group or any of my courses are working with me one-on-one. So hi Jenna, welcome. This is definitely a noteworthy video, so make sure you've got something to take notes with or come back and take notes later. So just to kind of get kicked off, we all know that the industry, and this is nothing new, the industry is loaded with professionals coming in, going out, you name it. And vets offices, it's like the difference in businesses here, something to understand. Vets office typically, all of them, have been in business longer, think about that for a second, than most dog training companies on average. The average vet clinic that's open is going to be much longer than dog training businesses. So what that means, we have to look at this from the perspective of the vet's offices, not necessarily from your perspective as a business owner. We need to find value for them and why they should even have a relationship with us. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to give you guys specifics on what to do here in a little bit. But I think the attitude and understanding the angle of approach first is critical. And we do that by understanding who we're getting on the phone with, who we're trying to make contact with. So with vets offices, you have to understand something. The saturation in the market has been happening for at least the last 10 years. That's a long time. And well, even the last 15 years, depending on like what market, what location you're at in general. But now it really is impacting you guys all over the world because there's so many dog trainers, businesses, and people try to put up shop and then they're out of business 18 months later. So number one thing to understand about vet clinics, guys, is that they see that, right? So that's a problem for them that we have to help them overcome. And we're going to use some strategies around just pure disruption because everybody, that's why I think that this question is always so much fun to cover because think about it. Everybody in our industry, in the training industry primarily, is what you guys do, dog training businesses or dog care businesses. We typically haven't been in business as long, right? And we have to understand that they get a lot of people like us contacting them, asking them to take business cards. As a matter of fact, one of the first, and I'll read you guys a couple of the responses we got in the group. One of the, I think, biggest recommendations for old school trainers to give advice to newer trainers is, yeah, just go take your business cards. That's what I did back in the day. As a matter of fact, one of the comments, one of the suggestions literally says to the question, I never have other than early on dropping off business cards early in my career. Some of the things grow like an oak tree. In time, you have trees all around you, which I agree with on one level, but on the other hand, because that's such typical feedback for this kind of a thing. The problem with that is that the people that are telling the younger trainers or the businesses, people that have just moved, maybe you're not even a new trainer, maybe you've been doing it for 15, 20 years, but now you're in a different market and you're trying to rebuild, right? It's bad advice because that worked 20 years ago. Because there wasn't the problem of oversaturation. There wasn't the issue of the vet clinic already having 50 people just like you ring them and say, hey, can I drop off business cards? If you go into the vet clinics or the feed and seed stores or any of the typical places that dog trainers tend to hit up, you'll see the board of doom. And the board of doom is that bulletin board that's somewhere on a wall or the stack of cards that are on the counter kind of off to the side in the vet clinic where business cards, it's like a graveyard for business cards, essentially, guys. So you don't want to end up on the board of doom, believe it or not. So that's the issue. That's a speed bump in which a new, not even a new business, but a dog training business in this day and age needs to get over in order to get in with vet clinics, right? And I love it. Kristen's on here right now. Crystal Close, all kinds of good people are on here. But that's the issue that we face, right? So I'm going to give you guys two techniques to get over that speed bump with understanding what the vet clinics are dealing with in mind. So the first one, and again, these are kind of pattern interrupts. These are going in and doing the complete opposite of what everybody else in the industry is doing. I will say before I give you guys these tips, here's one last word or piece of advice or wisdom. It will not work unless you truly have something valuable to offer. If you don't naturally have a slightly different angle of approach with how you care for your clients, or it's got to be something, you've got to have something special, and that takes some work with identity and niche development and all that. So some of you guys, this stuff's going to be a little early on, but nonetheless, it's good, hardcore techniques. Oh, hold on a second. I've got a couple questions. Let me read those and I'll get into this. Kim says, in Arkansas, so many vet clinics were open to me leaving cards and recommending me. Yep, when I moved to Florida, it was the exact opposite, devastating at the time. Exactly, it depends on your area, but even then, you give each area a little bit of time. I've seen this as a coach over the last 15 years, is the areas that used to be easier to kind of get in with some of these places are now much more difficult because there is a compounding factor in terms of it just being really busy. So many places or people trying to start dog training businesses. All right, so here's the two things I'm gonna leave you guys with. Number one, you're actually gonna call. If you're gonna make calls, call first of all. Do not get sucked into writing a bunch of emails and shit. That's what everybody else is doing. It's a lot of the advice out there right now. I don't recommend it. So I recommend, number one, getting on the phone. And when you get on the phone, you're gonna actually ask them not to take your business cards. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so from, this company. Just super quick, because I bet you get a lot of these calls. I'm not calling you to ask you to take my business card. I'm just not. That's not actually what it is. But I do want to have a quick chat if you're open to it, because I have a feeling I really want to be able to be supportive of your clients. You got to kind of change the avenue of approach. So that's number one. Interrupt the whole pattern by literally telling them within the first 10, 15 seconds you're on the phone, hey, I'm so-and-so, kind of do what you naturally think you're supposed to do, and then literally slam that on the table, be like, I am actually do not want you to take my cards just to hand out, because I'm not just for anybody, right? And usually if you pause there, what'll happen is all of a sudden the person that's on the other end of the line that's answered the phone, the receptionist 9 times out of 10, right, is already going, whoa, this is different. What's different? They start asking questions. This is great, because how do we build relationships? We ask questions of one another. So it opens the conversation up in a way that kind of lets them explore who you are in a way that they wouldn't normally think to do with people that are asking just to take business cards. So that's a really, really, really good technique. Obviously, there's more stuff after that, but just getting your foot in the door, if you don't do that, chances are any of the other things you might have on your agenda, you're just not going to get to, because they're going to slam the door in your face 9 times out of 10. Judy says, and speak to the practice manager. It takes time to do that. Like that's some of the extra steps that I typically put in play for people, because sometimes what we want to do, and because as a business consultant, I actually know when we like people that run staff and have somebody on the front end, like the receptionist gets these conversations from management about how important their role is, and that they're really kind of boots on the ground, and they're the ones protecting the manager, whatever type of the managerial position that they label it, it's still like the manager, whatever. Their job is actually to protect them from people wasting their time. And so you have to be very, very careful with how you try to move through the ladder, so to speak, in that company, because it's very easy to get the door closed. So what I tend to do, and what I tend to coach my clients on, is to first of all make friends, kind of build a relationship just with the receptionist. And you can build that up. Be like, look, the reality is you're the one, I bet, that's oftentimes giving suggestions and hearing the stories behind the scenes from people as you're checking them in and checking them out. And I get that, like, your role is so important. If you're the person that reminds them of that first and foremost, they're going to be comfortable with you. If they're comfortable with you, they're going to feel they're going to recommend. They're going to end up having a conversation on their own with their manager to pique the manager's interest. You don't even have to ask at that point. So again, I'm always thinking about, how is that business flowing? Who's doing what role? How can I connect with each person as I build a relationship? The second thing that I've got on my agenda for you guys so another recommendation that's often given is, just show up with your clients that you do find, do a good job, and your good work will speak for itself, right? I think that's pretty common. Your clients will speak for you, right? The work's going to speak for itself. Here's my thing. Don't wait for that to happen. Take control over that, right? And one of the easiest things that you can do, and I used to have this as a principle for myself in my own training business years ago, is every single new client that I got, I didn't care what level, program, where they were at, whatever. We all get basic information from people, including who their primary veterinarian is, right? As soon as I would get information in and start a new client, guess what? I was on the phone with that vet's office. And want to know what the actual conversation sounded like? It was something like this. hey, my name's Maggie. I'm with, this company, Heal Consulting or whatever, where I was at the time. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick call because so-and-so, I'd mentioned my client with their dog Pookie or whatever. It's a new client of mine. And I realized when I was going through the paperwork that I don't have a relationship with you guys as a clinic. And I'm very, very much community oriented. For me, I'm very, very, very serious about, protecting my clients. And if I don't have a relationship with their veterinarian, I very much feel like awkward. It's like, okay, what if, something happens or whatever the case is. I feel like, we're on board to protect these guys. I want to make sure that we've at least got some level of familiarity with each other. However that feels for you guys. If you want to just schedule a chat sometime, I'm totally open. And I kind of like give the power over to them. Whatever you guys feel like you need from me, just let me know. I want to make sure that, we've just got clear communication. And again, that's another pattern interrupt. It's actually turning the idea of, which the original question here from Aaron was about cold calling. And this is an opportunity to work a new piece of your system into your business that literally turns every single client, every single lead, into a warm call with the veterinarian offices that they're connected with. Does that make sense? So it's like we can also shift and create leads out of the vet offices that are very much warm leads as opposed to calling for literally no other reason other than your own agenda. And I think that that's really the important part about that second piece is use it like really, and for me, it started off originally as I just wanted to do that authentically because I was working with aggression cases, and I thought it was really critical that I had a relationship with the vet's offices because oftentimes I would recommend the dogs to go in and get health checks and all of this. Sometimes I'd notice pain in a knee or whatever, and I just, I thought it was a good idea for us to all get connected. But what ended up happening was they all loved me and they all recommended me for my specialty. And it was very much there's all those dog trainer cards out there, but here's the hidden one. Here's the one I'm really going to recommend. And it was like they were pulling it out of their pocket at that point, and it really spoke to those clients as well. So I inadvertently basically found out that this was like a really, really, really good strategy because it is authentic. You are doing it based on an actual client, and you've got different things you can discuss about that case or whatever. I mean, it's in the benefit for their client. And that's, again, the whole approach for me is how can I make this valuable for the clinic, not for me? If I can make it valuable for them, they're gonna naturally want to build a relationship with me. And so that's my angle of approach, and it works beautifully in just the way that the market is right now with everything being so saturated. All right, so that's enough. I think that I feel like I just covered a bunch of stuff. You guys have plenty of notes to take. Let me kind of go back and see if I've missed any questions from anyone. Judy says, most animal hospitals now, the same person answering the phone is not the same person who greets you when checking in. Yeah, well, and again, you won't know that until you build a rapport with whoever is on the phone. So again, let those relationships kind of guide the way. Like, you don't want to come at this with too much of an agenda. And that's really important. My clients and I know, because we talk about that often, it's like the magic happens when we approach things from kind of an authentic angle and then try not to be too connected with the end result. Oftentimes when we overplan, we'll miss the magic, we'll miss the gold in between, and we won't really find out if we make assumptions or whatever. So keep an open mind for each one of you guys and as individuals going in and making these relationships. Remind yourself that there's different ways of going about it. And I think the big key here, guys, is no matter where you're at, figure out what is it like in your area? What are most other people most likely to do if found in your position, and find a way to do the opposite. Right? And that's always the check mark, the checks and balance that I have in my head around any of the consulting or any of the topics or aspects that we work with on business is, yes, okay, here's marketing, here's your coaching process, here's your program design, here's all these different things. How can we do things differently? We want to do things differently. That's when you kind of know you're going to remain on the cutting edge there. So anyhow, this has been super fun. Thank you everybody that joined me. I've got to actually wrap up, and I've got a couple of coaching calls scheduled, so I got to be on the phones. I'm going to make sure that this video makes its way over to the Grassroots Dog Business Owners group. And bye for now, I guess. Take it easy. Go do some good work, guys. Make sure that, if you didn't make notes, go back, do it again. Definitely create notes for yourself on this, and then go give it a shot and see how it goes and let me know. All right, bye for now, y'all.